All right, let's get this meeting started. Welcome, everybody. My name's the microphone, I'll let you all know, is not for us. It's only for the television folks. So everybody that's talking is going to have to speak up it is on, but it's only for the recording. Yep. So everybody's going to have to speak up. When it's your turn to ask questions, I'm going to ask you to go to that microphone over there to do that, just so that it will be on the television recording. Again, welcome everybody. My name's Tim Short. I'm the president of the fire department, and we're going to start this evening. Before I get into how we're going to run this thing, Jim Herlock, our chaplain, is going to lead us in prayer, and once that's done, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Then I'll get into a little bit more of how we're going to run the meeting tonight.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for bringing each and every one of us here this evening, Lord, safely. And Lord, let us go into this forum, Lord. We have candidates that are going to try to be reelected, and we have candidates that are running new. And Lord, just be with us as we go into this evening. Let everything be pleasing, and let us do this in a compassionate way. In this day and time, Lord, we need a whole lot of compassion and caring for each other. So let's keep this thing really nice and caring about each other, and just run on each other's platform. Don't be slandering anyone. That's would be a plus. And again, we want to thank them for coming and sharing their thoughts. And again, all the citizens here that may have questions and get some answers to. And again, Lord, thank you for this wonderful evening, and let us enjoy this and give us all good fellowship together. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Now let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I want to start out, since we're here at the fire department hosting this, just want to make sure that everybody understands that the fire department itself is completely neutral in the election. We are not partisan in any way. We collect, the county helps us fund the operations here, so we just want to make sure that everybody understands that all we're doing is opening up the department to let you all have the opportunity to meet the candidates and get your questions answered. And we're not taking a side in any way, shape, or form. Next thing is just a little bit of housekeeping. If anybody needs to use the restrooms, ladies' room is over in that corner, men's room's right here, and in the back, if you go through that doorway, turn left when you get in there, there's a handicap accessible men's and ladies' room. That's pretty much it. The way we're going to handle things this evening is I'm going to give each of the candidates a couple minutes to present opening remarks. Once that's done, I'm going to open it up to you all to ask questions. When it's your turn to ask a question, I'm going to ask you to go over to that microphone over there, but you will have to speak up. And then after we've asked all the questions and we've got through that part, I'm going to give each one of the candidates another couple minutes for closing remarks, and then we'll be done. All right? Any questions before we get started? Okay. With that, I'm just going to go no particular order. We'll just start at the other end of the table. By the way, we do have Laura Rogers running for the Stevensburg seat, Susan Gugino running for the Stevensburg seat, Jack Frazier running for Cedar Mountain. Dave Dorr was invited. He had another commitment tonight. He was also running for Cedar Mountain and couldn't make it. And Bill Chase couldn't make it tonight, and in his place he sent a written statement, and Key Settle's going to be reading that as part of the opening remarks for Mr. Chase. So Laura, if you would, you're welcome to start.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Laura Rogers, and I'm running for the Stevensburg District Board of Supervisors seat. I've been a 25-year resident of Culpeper County. I'm a lifelong conservative, and I am supporting Youngkin for governor. There's a few reasons why I am running for Board of Supervisors. I want to take on managing the county budget process and funding all those requests responsibly. I will prioritize projects that make a positive impact in the community. I have been a longtime proponent of speaking up for the necessary EMS funding for public safety of our citizens through the Planning Commission's annual review of the CIP. And it's amazing how volunteer fire departments like this one here in Richardsville has done so much with limited resources they receive from the county. We also need to improve countywide internet access. Most of Stevensburg District is either unserved or underserved, and COVID really impacted these residents. The county is working on several projects, and I will make sure to continue to prioritize the broadband services. Come December, the VATI Awards, the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, will be announced, and the county and All Points Broadband will have about 90 days to sign this agreement, and they will formally accept the award. Once that happens, certain areas throughout the county will be getting some sort of internet access better than what we have now within 18 months. And we need to find a responsible solar ordinance that protects the rural and agricultural community. The demand for renewable energy can be balanced while protecting our rural character of the community. We must protect our land and historic resources, which make Culpeper special. I am for privately owned solar on homes, barns, schools, businesses, where they get the direct benefit of solar. However, where I disagree with solar use in the county is that these overwhelmingly large 1,700 to 2,000 acre applications for industrial scale solar, where the project would be turned over to a public utility. And with this last project that we had back in May, where the board did deny it, the public utility was going to purchase over 50% of this land that was going to be used in the project. If the end user is a public utility, then I think the public utility should be the applicant from start to finish, so we know who actually will be accountable for this thing in the end. These huge utility scale projects will power no homes in Culpeper County. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, go ahead.
First, I would like to thank the fire department for hosting this event and thank each volunteer for the selfless work that they do for the county. You guys don't receive the appreciation that you deserve. My name is Susan Gugino, and I am the Republican nominee for Stevensburg Supervisor. As many of you know, I am a farmer, mother, and IT professional. I had the privilege to serve on the Planning Commission as well as a Chief Election Officer for the county. I appreciate everything that previous boards have done to keep Culpeper rural and preserve agricultural businesses that have thrived in this area for centuries. I want to continue fighting for farmers, small business owners, and all the residents of Stevensburg and the county. I put my phone number on every flyer because I want to be available for anyone to reach out and be heard. I'm running for you, not for me. I will be a part of ensuring Culpeper remains a constitutional county, protecting our 2A rights, and supporting our deputy and fire and rescue providers. I will continue to support efforts to expand the rural broadband to all citizens of Culpeper. I will advocate for no-nonsense solar property policies that protect our farmland and open space. I pledge to keep our taxes low and to work to improve our roads and infrastructure. I will work with the school board to decrease bus times and review the capital improvements plan to determine if a closer elementary school is feasible in the future. I want to work for you and your families. I have the education, work experience, and motivation to guide Culpeper forward. Thank you.
Mr. Frazier.
Good evening. I'm Jack Frazier. I'm running for re-election to the Cedar Mountain District on the Board of Supervisors as an independent conservative, which our local paper, seems to never get right. Also with that, I've never taken any campaign contributions. I'm 71 years old. Married 52 years, October 25th this year. I'll never forget that date. I may forget others, but I'll never forget that one. I have 2 grown daughters, 2 granddaughters. Some background about me: I served 5 years on the Planning Commission, My background is in the construction trades. This is one thing that I've sponsored ever since I've been on the board. I've been on the board 8 years. I've been super active as far as the CTE program, and Sue Hanson and I was able to bring this to fruition this past year. So it's so many kids that this is going to help in our district, in every district in the county and surrounding counties. I hold a Virginia master's license in electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and gas fitting. I also hold a Class A license in residential and commercial construction. I'm not just a manager of a business, I'm the owner and operator, and have been in business in this county and surrounding counties for 40 years. In closing, I want to thank the fire department for hosting this tonight, and I realize that I'm not a part of this as far as the supervisor race, but I certainly appreciate you all allowing me to be here and allowing me to speak. Thank you all.
All right, Key, if you would, read Bill's statement.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Key Settle, and I'm here to read a statement from Bill Chase. He's under the weather, but he's optimistic that he'll be back soon. He says, I have always treated all the citizens of the Stevensburg district as my friends. Over the years, I have received many specific requests from my friends in the Richardsville area. Before the pandemic, I tried to attend each dinner and celebration at the fire hall. I reacted to each and every phone call from the Richardsville area, as well as the entire Stevensburg district. Probably one of the biggest improvements I got for this area was the establishment of the lignum transfer site. Prior to that, all Richardsville citizens had to haul trash all the way through Culpeper and out to the landfill at Salem. From time to time, the lignum site has been questioned by the Board of Supervisors due to its extreme cost, land use problems, and misuse by other counties. I have personally led each charge to leave the transfer there, where it will remain. I have also successfully convinced VDOT to lower the speed limit past the fire hall for safety. This required me to talk to the right people and show the facts. I have also been instrumental in the county's emergency management system, from which the citizens of this area have personally benefited, as well as the fire department. Early in my career, I met with one of your local farmers at his farm. He was having financial problems and in fear of losing his farm and going bankrupt. I introduced him to the land use program, and we held the property taxes. In his words, it saved my farm and my life savings. He was able to happily live on and work his farm for the rest of his life. Each of you should have received one of my flyers in the mail. If not, I have sent some extras tonight to hand out. I have not wavered on my thoughts and actions over the years. I will always react and welcome each and every phone call that I receive. Basically, I stand for continuing to keep taxes low, maintaining an excellent education system for our children, keeping a strong law enforcement and emergency response system in our county, and helping each constituent solve their problems. These are all the things I have done and will continue to do as your supervisor. And I'd like to say that Bill, right now, until he gets his health back completely, is at his son's, and he has a cell phone now. If anybody needs his number to call him, you can contact me, and I'll be happy to give it to you. Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes our opening statement, so now we're going to open it up to all of you. So it's Kurt, you got a question?
Yes, good evening. My name is Kurt Christensen. I live in this area at the end of River Mill Road, and I gave each of you a map about dealing with this question I'm going to ask. So all of you have a map of the nearby Point of Fork Agriculture and Forest All District east of here on Richards Ferry Road. This district has a 100-foot buffer zone that extends onto adjacent property. this buffer zone prevented the owner of a 5-acre lot from building a home on this lot, forcing him to buy another lot. The yellow shaded area on your map on lot F shows this no-build buffer zone of 100 feet. And should mention, this gentleman got a title search done, and none of this showed up. But what happened when he submitted his building plans, he couldn't build on this lot. So he was forced to buy another lot and build on that. Many of us see this as an unconstitutional taking of private property by the Culpeper County government. A person today could pay $85,000 for a 5-acre building lot, and they couldn't build on it. I mean, this is a great injustice. Question: if you're elected supervisor, or re-elected supervisor in the case of Mr. Frazier, what would you do to stop this unconstitutional taking of property by Culpeper County under the guise of an ag and forestal district? And this is a question for all three. Thank you.
We'll do this in inverse order of our thing as far as the introduction. So, Mr. Frazier, if you'd like to take that one first.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say that I have no problem with putting their land in ag and forestal districts. Have absolutely no problem with that. The problem I have with it is that people that have land in ag or forestal districts should not be able to control any land other than what they own. These buffers, this issue has already come through our board one time, and these buffers were voted for by 4 members of our board. Now, it was Bill Chase, Brad Rosenberger, Gary Deal, and Paul Bates. That's how it got approved. Knowing that this was possibly illegal, knowing that these proffers were not a good thing to be doing, but that's what they did. So I absolutely disagree with it, and I just hope that if I go back, I will vote against it again. Thank you.
Susan?
It is very unfortunate that one of these were put in place that prohibited somebody from building a house on a 6-acre lot. It is a very long and narrow lot. So that means that the advisory committee, when they issued this during the subdivision request, missed the fact that either the current setbacks, they didn't look at them, or since that subdivision was approved, the setbacks had been increased. So as far as it being a steal of the county of property rights, it's the same thing as our setbacks. At some point, somebody wanted to put a 1,000-foot setback on my poultry house. It's on ag land. It's agriculture. It's how we make our living. How is that not a steal from the county that I have to be 150 feet, vice a dairy barn being only 50? There are different things that this county has put in place to protect agriculture from encroaching developments and protect the new homeowners from the existing farms. Nobody wants to move in next door unrealizing the fact that you're going to have crop dust, lime dispersal, or you're going to have the smell of a feedlot next door. And these buffers were originally intended to protect the new and protect the old. Now, are they the right thing to do? Maybe, maybe not. But we can't constantly be on the side of the brand new homeowner and forget all of our farmers and all of the rural residents we have. Do we want to look at doing something different? I'm all for it. We can just say in agricultural zoning, let's just increase the setbacks from the property line. That's one way to do it. But that's going to affect every lot. This only affects very few. And it is unfortunate that this got missed by the Ag Forestal Committee. But the committee does review all these things before they happen for subdivision requests. So it's not like I can go tomorrow and ask, hey, can I have a buffer on this adjacent property? No, it doesn't work that way. The adjacent property has to submit a land use application for it to even be looked at. So I do support them in cases where they're necessary. Our farmers getting pushed out of our agricultural zoned lands. Developers are buying cheap land splitting it up per their by right divides or subdivision ordinance, and these farmers are having to quit farming. And then that will fundamentally change Culpeper. It will raise our taxes. It'll increase everything that goes on in our infrastructure. Our roads will get worse. Our schools will fill up. So we have to look at maintaining this delicate balance between new homes, old farms, and businesses.
Thank you. Laura?
Thank you. I wholly agree in these ag forestal districts. Every parcel owner that is involved with this, they have to reapply every 8 years. And the idea of an ag forestal is the fact that you are going to continue your use of conservation, you're doing your farming, whatever it is, it's with trees or cows, hay, crops, whatever. You have that right to do that on your property. That is your right to farm your property. What isn't a right is for your use to encumber someone else's use on their property. So by placing these buffers, whether it's a 50, 100, 200-foot buffer on your adjacent property owner, your use should not affect mine. So that means I can't put a tractor shed in that. I can't build a house. I can't put, a barn there. That's unfair to that landowner because you've just taken away the rights of that person. Not everyone is out there looking as building a home. If someone's looking at a piece of property, I found a 5-acre parcel, well, I want to put my house here. It's just perfect. I love the lay of the land. I'm going to put my house here, dream home. I go down to the building department and I can't put my house where I want to. I find that to be, kind of objectionable to that particular landowner. And the problem is just not these 100-foot buffers that get put on when you want to do a use on your property. The problem is afterwards. What happens when this particular land, say this land that's here in the gray, goes out of the ag forestal district for whatever reason? Well, if you've got this 100-foot buffer on here, it stays on your property. It is recorded on your property. And you have to take it off. You have to get a cost of going in there, recording an easement plat to get this easement taken off your property that you never put on there in the first place. So there are ways to make this work. We're not denying uses for the agricultural community. You can still farm. People realize if I'm by A1, I'm here with the sights and sounds and smells of the farming community. You know what you're up against. So, buyer beware with everything else. But in the same regard, to put buffers like this, and sometimes unbeknownst until you actually pull a building permit, that is something that should be changed. And I would be for changing that if I get on the board. Thank you.
All right. Next question? All right. Go ahead, Marshall.
All right, I'm Marshall Keene. I'm a resident of Richardsville. I actually live on Curtis Mill Lane. As you know, this is a tight-knit community. And first of all, I want to thank all of you guys for being here tonight. I know being a candidate, being a candidate myself, it's tough. And I know you're especially taking questions from the crowd and not being able to prep for them. That's probably one of the hardest things you can do. But in my opinion, it's the best way to get the truth from you guys. So my big thing, I think one of you guys mentioned Kirkpatrick Park or the transfer station in Lignum. I think it may have been key for Mr. Chase. I have an issue with parks and recreation resources here in Richardsville. For example, Lynn Park is in Stevensburg, but as you know, Stevensburg is probably the biggest district in the county. It splits the county right down the half, and the district goes from 229 all the way here to Richardsville. So we have Kirkpatrick Park out there. We haven't used it. We don't have a pavilion here in Richardsville. We don't have anything for the kids to do. Once you hit Lynn Park and come this way down the county, there's nothing to do. There's nothing for families to take their, there's families too during the warm weather to have a cookout or to gather or whatever. What is your plans to ensure that folks here in Richardsville will have those resources or those amenities later on to benefit the community? And just before you answer that, I want to remind you that the complex, if you've been paying attention to the complex with the new facility that we're building there that's been approved by the board, which is great for the youth of our community. That's maxed out. The complex is done. There's nowhere else there at that complex to build anything else. So we have a piece of property on Route 3 in Kirkpatrick Park that we could use. All right, it's right there. So what's your plans to ensure Parks and Recreation's resources can make it this way?
You asking that to all three as well, Marshall?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. In sense of fairness here, if you would, Susan, if you'd take that one first.
Absolutely. I am in full support of utilizing our parks to the fullest extent possible. If there is one in need of more facility, we definitely need to look into that, look into the capital improvements plan, where we can budget that in, how we can address that, because yeah, it is unfair that people all the way down in Richardsville have to travel all the way to Len Park for some kind of pavilion or amenity. We're focusing a lot of our stuff within a very tight area of the city center of the town of Culpeper. That also goes for our schools. We need to address the fact that Stevensburg is a large land area. We have a lot of residents down here. It's continuously growing. Every time I come down here, I swear there's a new road popping off with a couple 10 houses in a cul-de-sac. So we definitely need to look at addressing the population growth down here and ensuring that the amenities that they have closer to town also are drawn down here.
I agree as well. I think one of the things that has really been put to the forefront in our CIP, which is the capital improvements program that gets reviewed every year. It's a 5-year fiscal plan that the county budgets for a 5-year time frame. And one thing that's been happening with, finally, with our CIP, the Parks and Rec is getting a little bit more look. We actually did a study back in 2017 where the Parks and Rec group asked for a 2017 study to see what type of Parks and Rec people were looking for in the different areas. And one of the biggest things that they did come up with were walking trails, bike trails, and certain pocket parks throughout the area. And I think that's an important feature that we need to bring to this area, because you guys are far away from the main hub, and there is going to be that added field house that's going to be over there at the sports complex. So anything that we can do to try to allow the community to have a Parks and Rec, that's something that we need to definitely look at. And that's why, you know, you would need to call a community meeting, have something here, you know, next year, or when we plan for what the next level of funding is, and listen to what people want to have here. That would be a very important part to try to piece this puzzle together. So I'm all for trying to work with the community to get something here.
Jack?
I guess first of all, the Parks and Rec of the county is pretty much under new management, if you will. And Andrew Harding has done a really good job on taking that over. One of the areas that we're focusing on is Mountain Run Lake. Mountain Run Lake will soon be, here just in the next week or so, taken over by the county, and it will be a park there operated and owned, other than the water, by the county. And there will be new facilities there. I realize that Mountain Run Lake don't do you all a lot of good here, but the simple thing of it is that we're focused on putting recreation areas in all districts. And I say that again, new recreational areas in all districts. There's a focus on this. We as a board know how important it is for this area, the further out areas, so there is a focus, and these things will happen soon. But the main focus now is to finish out the complex. Once the new building is built there, that will be maxed out. All that will be done. That's the reason that we move into Mountain Run Lake, because the population is mostly centered around the town and the town areas. So those areas have to be serviced, of course, but these areas have to be serviced too. So there is an effort to get recreational areas done in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you, Richardsville Fire Department. Y'all are great. I want to hear about broadband. And the big example this past year was with the school system, COVID, and even continuing on, people working from home. And an area like Stevensburg really needs broadband access. I was with some friends the other day that said, oh, there was a grant in the community in Culpeper, and we got broadband. They were in a close proximity to the town. That was an affluent community, and they got broadband. And they said, oh, Comcast came in. Of course they came in. They wanted an easy picking place to go get customers. I want to know what y'all plan to do for Richardsville, for Stevensburg, for those low-serviced areas that desperately need it to keep those young folk and the other working people in the area so they don't have to commute. And it's a huge thing. It's a low population, so therefore, oh, we serve greater good by sending it somewhere else that has more population. What are you going to do to get it here to the lower population area that desperately needs it?
I'm
Laura,
all
would you
with
take that?
I'm first?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm all with you on that. We've been dealing with very poor service for many, many years, and the town gets the good service. I found it quite interesting during the candidates forum that we had with the chamber, and the town people running on town council were like, we got to get better internet. You know, ours is just not good. I'm like, well, at least you guys have something that, you know, we don't even have it out here. One of the things that the county started to do a few years back, they were working with All Points Broadband, and they did a survey, and I hope everyone filled it out in this area. You went to the website and you filled out the information. If you couldn't, well, on your cell phone.
On your cell phone when we went to town.
Yeah, when you went to.
We don't have phone service either. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. The whole idea was to fill out this information so that they could help pinpoint where all the lack of service is. And what they found out after this study came back and was reviewed by the board, that there was about 4,300 homes that were either unserved or underserved in the county, and a majority of those homes were right here in this district. There was, you know, Jefferson, and then also in Jack's district as well. But almost our entire district was covered in pink and red, meaning we don't have anything. And one of the things that they've done, one of the helpful things that has happened over the years, unfortunately because of COVID, there are certain funds that are available. And like I had said earlier, there's this Virginia Telecommunications Initiative that will be awarded in December, and we've done all the paperwork over the last, or I should say the board has. I've just been to some of the meetings. The board has done all the paperwork to go back and forth between this particular company trying to bring this to Culpeper. And the sooner the better. I mean, it's going to be at least 18 months, but I hope that this will be part of the region, because your region was all pink and red. And we definitely need to bring it here to the community, because if COVID taught us anything, is that we need our internet everywhere, because kids couldn't do their schoolwork, people couldn't work from home because they didn't have the internet. So I'm hoping by December that we can actually start moving forward on this. Thank you.
Jack, if you'll go next.
A little back history on this. We as a board looked at doing a wireless program. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with this or not, but doing a wireless program with All Points. And they had a connection with Dominion at the time. And we as a board decided not to go with that. It was an all wireless thing. And the problem that we saw with it, I think most of us did, the issue that we saw with it was that it was not a system that would be lasting for over 5 years. It was a 3 to 5 year system, and that system would have cost the county somewhere between $6 and $8 million. So we decided that could have been a temporary thing, but we decided not to spend the money on that. I think it was the right thing to do. I realized that, you know, everybody needs service. It's me at my house, I'm 5 miles out of town. I got to sit on my picnic table and make a phone call. So that's be outside, not inside. But anyway, the issue was that we did not go with that particular plan. Now, there is a plan in place that we, All Points Broadband, Dominion, they already have a connection. They already got the contract. The issue is with REC now. They have, as far as I know, they have not connected with the other three. Then you ask me why that they would want to do that. The thing of it is All Points Broadband needs the infrastructure of REC, all of these poles to get their fiber on. It's got to be fiber to the house. That's what the county, that's what we're working on to do. Not coax to the house, fiber to the house. It's the absolute best way to service the county. Yes, it may be out a year or so, but we are working on it, and by the end of the year, by the end of this year, all the contracts should be in place. The grant is there. The county has the money to do this, but we want to make sure it's spent in a prudent way and something that'll give you service forever, not a temporary service like the wireless one was. Thank you.
Susan.
Totally agree. I was one of those people that was supposed to work from home, and I kept telling them, guys, I can't work from home. Not only do I not have internet, but I really don't have cell service either. I applaud the county and what they've done with partnering with All Points and getting a permanent fiber to home solution. I want to continue that, looking at grants, looking at other ways to not be at all on the county's dollar, but to continue looking at these programs and partnerships until we get every single home in Stevensburg and Culpeper County connected. I want to avoid at all costs becoming an actual utility provider, because I don't think that's in the best interest of the county, but I agree with these public-private partnerships where we help push the envelope to get these companies to go that last mile to service the people that aren't necessarily as cost effective. So I will definitely be there in the fight, if elected, to push for broadband for everyone. Thank you.
Next question. Go ahead, ma'am. I think I failed to mention it earlier, but when y'all were asking your questions, please state your name before you ask the question. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Susan Ralston, and I live in Stevensburg. I have been working very hard for the past 3-4 years now, really trying to protect some of the agricultural and historic land in Stevensburg against the development of industrial scale solar. It's really affecting me personally and my neighbors on Algonquin Trail. The Planning Commission has a hearing this Thursday on a proposed solar ordinance that doesn't have any acreage limits on industrial scale solar projects. So I'd really like to hear each of you on your position on the acreage limits, and if you could just elaborate a little bit more on your position on whether the county should allow industrial scale solar on agricultural land. Thank you.
Jack, will you take that one first, please?
A little backstory on solar. I was on the board when back when this whole process started, and the real backstory is that it started with we was trying to come up with a supplement as far as trying to supplement small farms, working farms, as far as something that would supplement their income. And it started out, well, we'll look at 10-acre parcels. And then that morphed into 50-acre parcels. And then it morphed into 300-acre parcels. Now it's morphed into 1,000-acre and plus parcels. Now, the way I look at this is that putting industrial grade solar on farmland, that's not farming, folks. That's industrial grade solar. That's electric production, is what that is. I don't care how you shake it. I am not in favor of these high 1,000-acre parcels. The 300-acre parcels, I could tolerate that, but the 1,000-acre commercial grade, I'm not in favor of it, and I've got a track record on that, folks. I've not voted for neither of these ones that have come up. I know that we've already approved one in the Stevensburg area. Stevensburg seems to be the area with the power line, that the high tension line that, you know, they need that for these big areas of solar. But the thing about solar is that, you know, if we're going to have it, if we're going to have this in Culpeper, we just can't concentrate it in Stevensburg area. It's got what's good for one is good for all. So there may be some areas in the other counties that, you know, would want solar. Just not in Stevensburg. Thank you.
Susan.
I fully understand it's in my backyard. I am right off of Blackjack. I would drive by it every single day, the one that's been approved, as well as the one that was recently disapproved. I am not for covering our farmlands in solar panels. I don't care if you call it a solar farm or not. It's not what that land was meant for. Unfortunately, our General Assembly passed legislation that allowed for this to happen. I want to turn around and put it back on them to start moving those dollars that they're pushing Dominion for to provide ways that the citizens themselves can put solar installations on their homes. I would rather see businesses like the Association of Social Workers Board that used it in their parking lot for covered parking, or how the Arbors integrated a few panels to supplement their electricity. I want to see you have lower electric bills. I don't want to see Google or Amazon have lower electric bills, and I sure don't want to see it as I'm driving around from farm to farm. So I'm definitely not for these large-scale solar installations. It's legislation run, pushed by Richmond, and I want to push back.
Laura.
Thank you. Yeah, I was on the planning, still am on the planning commission, but at the very beginning of this whole solar thing, sort of like what Jack said, it started off with a small portion. It's going to help the farmer, and it has morphed into this huge thing. One of the things that the board did this year, they went ahead and sent the ordinance or the solar policy back to us for us to look at making it into an ordinance so that it would go before the public hearing, which is what Susan Ralston was talking about. There's going to be this meeting this upcoming Thursday at 7 o'clock. When the board decided to send it down to the Planning Commission for us to review and have work sessions and then to bring it to the public, one of the things that they did, they took out one of the biggest pieces of that solar policy that they amended. They took out the 300 acres that limited the size of these particular facilities. That is the most important piece of this entire ordinance. If you do not put a number on there, put a parameter for the size of these things, 2,000 acres may be a small solar facility that would be coming here. I don't think that's what we want to call farms here in Culpeper. We don't want it to become a dominant feature in our farmland. I think it's a very important thing that we must get this. People need to speak out. If we're truly a farming community, let's go out there and say, put 300 acres or even less, 200 acres on it. I'm fine with it. 1 megawatt equals about 10 acres. So if you can get 20 megawatts, 30 megawatts with a project, fine, do that. But when you start talking these huge, huge parcels in our farmland, and that was the one thing that we made sure that when these applicants came to us, we said, don't call these solar farms. These are not farms. This is not what we call a farm in Culpeper. And if I were to say also, the thing that we need to do is codify the policy, not just with the acreage, but also with the size of the panel. Because when you have all of this stuff with solar, you have to buffer it. And if you've got 18-foot panels, how in the world is a 6-foot tree going to buffer an 18-foot panel? You're going to see it from a distance as well. There is no buffering of this type of use. And I just think that to allow this on ag land, you know, if it's going to be on ag land, it needs to be small. This is something that we must stay on top of, and we must let the Planning Commission know, place that acreage on there. You must have that on there so that the board, when they get this, that they agree with what the community is out there trying to tell us. Because we will listen to you guys if you tell us to put this acreage limit on there. I think it's the most important thing possible that we could do for our community, to protect our community. Thank you.
Just ask a follow-up question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, you know, Laura and Jack mentioned specific acreage. Susan, what is the appropriate size?
You got to go up to the mic.
What would you recommend the acreage limit be, Susan?
If I had to put an acreage limit, because I would like to not see them at all, I believe there's much better ways to supplement a farmer's income than solar panels, but I would definitely support 300 or less.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Tim Stegmeyer. I live over off of Blackjack. I've done some studying and some research, and it's my understanding that the board has the authority to pass a motion that would put a referendum on the ballot next November, not this year, but next year. If you're elected to the board, or again, as in Jack's case, would you introduce and support a motion for a referendum for the citizens to vote with respect to the acreage and/or a motion that would only allow industrial strength solar in Culpeper on industrial land, so that the citizens can vote on it and we can end it once and for all? And if it passes and you don't like it, then you can move. And if it doesn't pass and you don't like it, you can move.
Susan?
Interesting question. Yeah. That is a very interesting question. I do not know what topics are allowed to be posed to a referendum. Would I support it? Absolutely. I think Stevensburg, however, is the only one that's really having this as a threat because of our situation with the where the transmission lines are, the topology. We are very flat. But I mean, if it was legally allowed, absolutely. I would love to let the citizens decide. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Again, I'm not sure how a referendum for something like that would go on, but for it to go on industrial land, currently what we have in industrial land is large enough pieces like off on Lover's Lane. You would basically have to rezone property, I would assume, for that particular industry to go up and put the property on there. So to take industrial land and put it out there for the people to decide, I guess that's a possibility, but I don't know how you would go about differentiating between heavy industrial, light industrial, or would you put it in commercial services, and where are those in relation to, you know, the farms and the homes as well? That would be something that we definitely would have to look into to see about putting it on, you know, a referendum.
Jack? First of all, there's one issue with this, and the ordinance there have to be an ordinance set in place first. That would concrete the thing about putting it on a referendum. We would have to come together on an ordinance. That would have to be first. But I would certainly support that, but we've got to get through that process first. And that's really what's going on at the Planning Commission right now, and what will be going on at the, maybe the next 2 or 3 board meetings, because the Thursday night, I think there's going to be a public hearing on this, but that's not going to be the end of it. There'll be another public hearing at board level. So it would have to be an ordinance. The ordinance would have to be in place. Referendum, yes, it's legal for us to do that, but we would have to have some teeth to be able to put, an ordinance would have to go first. That's just the way it's got to be.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
With respect to that, Jack, you're on the board. It's my understanding that, because I talked to James over at the registrar's office to find out how it could be put on the ballot. I started on this 3 or 4 months ago. Had hoped to get it on this year, but obviously it didn't get there. I don't want to waste everybody's time too much. I don't know how you all are affected by the solar. But we've had discussions at the Planning Commission and at the board meeting, and most of the citizens feel that their voice is not heard. 95% of the citizens of the county, if you ask them something about solar, they don't know anything about it. As you mentioned, and everybody has said the same thing, when solar was first, we got the letter in 2016 that they'd offer us $10,000 an acre for our land. And Bill Chase and everybody in our area got the same letter. So for 5 years now, it has essentially torn the county apart. And for those of you that don't go to the meetings, it's been brought up by citizens again and again. It's not just agricultural being taken away. It's destruction of the entire county, because all your restaurants and your other businesses in town depend on these people that come here. On Blackjack, it's the old Carolina Road. People ride bicycles and all over there all the time. They come to go to Cedar Mountain and the other sites. The co-op is, perhaps some of you are members of the co-op. It's marginal. You take 5,000 or 10,000 acres out of agricultural and the co-op will have to fold. So the whole county is this way. And if you go back further, you go back to, why do we need solar at all? Well, Sam came out a big speech here the other day that Culpeper has an obligation. Well, what about Fairfax County? What is their percentage of obligation? And there's another way for us to do our share, to reduce. And I would say to you all to address it so that there's a question here. I believe that if we could consider a public-private program. The people that were approved, which it's still questionable about the legal issues on that 1,000-acre site, those people will drop $100 million in their pocket the day the shovel hits the earth over there, if it's ever totally approved. If we did a public-private, Culpeper County could have gotten $50 million off of that. And you use that $50 million to subsidize, and this is the question, would you do it, to subsidize every air conditioner and heat pump in the county to a 20-SEER unit. Some of them are old 8-SEER units. I have a friend that has a little mobile home. Her air conditioning bill this summer with window units was $450 for a single wide unit. Now, if you used the money and did that, you would reduce the electrical needs of Culpeper County, not counting the big industrial places, by 50%. You wouldn't need any solar panels or anything. And the other issue that doesn't get discussed, and this is why I wanted to go to referendum to all the citizens, look what happened in Texas. The windmills didn't work, the solar panels didn't work, and 29 people died. And if you read the Dominion stuff, it says solar and wind are totally undependable. We're taking our lives. If you go back and read the history, in 1899, the temperature in Culpeper went down to -27, and a man died in his home. They were breaking up their furniture to stay alive. And that's what's going to happen to us if we allow this solar thing. So you need to discuss this whole thing. We feel that the county employees, they come out and they make recommendations to the Planning Commission. Hey, we recommend this. They're all prejudiced from what Sam said. They don't look at the facts, so that's why I'm encouraging this. And would you all consider, if you're on the board, seriously looking into doing it the other way to get the money? You talk $6 or $8 million for parks or whatever, there's always money. Everybody here, I'll bet you there's not 5 people in this room that have a 15 or 16 SEER unit at their house, but everybody has either heat pumps or air conditioning or whatever. And did you get your electric bills from this summer? Our highest electric bills, which the wife and I are skinflints, was like $175. But, you know, in October, when you're not using anything, $75. There's only the 2 of us. So. All right, I don't know if there's a question there or not, but the biggest thing is look at the whole history and get it out so that all the people know. They don't know, they have no idea now, and yet you're making determinations at the Planning Commission. I say, when you go back to what Jack said, everybody said 10 acres so a farmer could take his worst land and put 10 acres of solar panels down there and get some income from it. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But anything more than 10 acres stinks, and it's a risk for all of us. And the whole county together needs to look at it. And, you know, what would you do as a supervisor to see that happen?
I would like to make one comment about what he said, that there are companies out there now, and this is probably something that all of us can think about, especially smaller landowners, that there are companies out there now that are specializing in smaller 10 to 20 acre solar areas. And I really think that that's something, I know that's something I've been looking at. I've been doing a lot of research on it. And these companies are out there. And the only thing that they don't need a 120 kV power line to be able to operate the thing. All they need is a three-phase power, and a lot of people in our county have 3-phase. But there are other alternatives to this 1,000-acre commercial solar stuff. There are alternatives to it, folks. Thank you.
Would either of the other of you like to address that?
I mean, I agree. There's definitely alternatives, like I said, about the American Social Workers Board and the arbors. I believe those are the methods that we need to go, not these large scale. I would love to do it for my poultry houses. I mean, my electric bill in the middle of summer is $3,200. I mean, it would be great to supplement that with some solar panels, but right now it's not cost effective. So if we could make what Dominion's getting for putting these in and buying subsidized electricity to the actual landowners and residents, then I think those are the ways that we need to go to reduce our toll on the electric grid.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said as well, but I think that we need to get these things small. The amount of electricity that is generated just goes into the grid. It's not as though we can say, let's go ahead and pick these 1,200 homes in Culpeper and pay their electric bill for an entire year. That's not how it works. That's why the idea of putting solar on the individual homes, businesses, and schools, you can immediately get that benefit right then and there. These other things that from the top down, from Virginia, they're telling us what counties need to be doing. And it's we need to be telling them what needs to be done. If we want to do this for our turkey farms, for our cattle farms, for just our homes and put it on the schools to reduce the electricity bill, that's what we need to do. Then we don't need to be doing these huge utility scale things because we're not getting any benefit, zero benefit. We get nothing. We don't even get taxes off these things because all of these solar panels, they keep talking of it's a $250 million project. So you're thinking, oh, we're going to get all these taxes. We're going to be able to get Parks and Rec in all areas around the county. No, they're exempt. They are exempt from paying taxes on their personal property. So that $250 million, it's not money coming into our county coffers. So I think that we need to keep the solar, if we can, as an accessory use to individual homes, businesses, and the like, and we really must control the size of these things. And we can do that. We can speak up at these meetings. If this is truly what we want, then everyone that's here, come here Thursday night and speak up, please.
Next question?
If nobody has anything to say, I do. I don't want to go if nobody else has anything.
I'm Bernard Skiff from Cedar Mountain District. There are two questions I have. One is why can't the state put solar panels? They're trying to force them to us on the prison farm. They got 300 or 400 acres in the Mitchell's area. The other question for you, the members here, is how do they feel about the comprehensive plan and do they plan on changing it for the county? And that's it.
All right. Or if you'd take that one first.
Excuse me, sir?
Burn it.
Sorry. What did you want changed with the comprehensive plan?
I don't want anything changed. I want to know what you're thinking about doing with it.
Oh, with the newest revision?
With where you're thinking about changing it to doing something entirely different, like it changed it from what it is now. That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Well, I'll answer that one first. Right now, we're reviewing the comprehensive plan. Unfortunately, we were supposed to review it in 2020, but COVID came and we couldn't have meetings, and then we were doing everything from afar. So our 2020 comp plan is going to end up being 2022. So we're in the middle of reviewing a lot of things. And one of the things that we are looking to update, a really large part of the comprehensive plan has to do with transportation. We have things in our CIP that calls for certain roads to get paved or to maintain more gravel roads and get them to the point where they can get paved, and we list some of them. And they seem to be on this forever list of 6 to 10 to 20 years. But we're going to try to pinpoint a lot of those roads, and we're going to actually list them in the comprehensive plan, because that is now how VDOT actually goes out and funds projects when they do 50-50 revenue sharing. If you have this information in your comp plan, if you say, hey, we need to do Curtis Mill Road, we need to go ahead and pave that road, but if we just have it in the CIP and not in the comp plan, well then VDOT says, well obviously your comprehensive plan does not see that as an important road that needs to be done. So even though you say you want funding for it, we're not going to do that. So I think that's going to be one good change that we can go in there and finally fine tune, especially since Virginia has stopped the 50-50 revenue sharing until 2026. So we need to figure out ways to still fund our roads as we don't have the funding. And we have to commit to doing that through the comp plan. So I think that's the one thing that I see that will definitely get some changes to it. And as far as the prison with putting solar panels on,
And the land that they have instead of just taking from private
that's a
individuals.
really good idea. Again, if we do that like with schools, if we do that with other businesses that are large businesses, I think that's a really good idea. There's a lot of things going on with that particular prison as well that I think Jack knows a lot more about than I do in regard to helping the public safety of the jail. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go on with that, but that would be an excellent way for Virginia to say, okay, well, here's a jail, let's go ahead and put it on there as well. I think that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Jack?
I certainly agree with Laura on that. I don't see the DLC doing that. I mean, I'm just going to tell you just like it is. I mean, these folks, they know that we have a jail overcrowding issue. Every state delegate, every one that we have, we've talked to them. We have a jail overcrowding issue in our county. Does everybody get that? I mean, it's costing us a fortune on outsourcing this. Now, they can't even tell us, Bernard, why that they won't let us use the prison. There's a 700, 800 bed prison sitting there that's renovated. It was the old prison for the juveniles. They renovated it as a ladies' prison. Nobody has ever been in it. New, everything in it is new. And they can't even tell us why that we can't use it. Now, that's all we want to know. Nothing else. The county would rent it. The county would lease it. Now, do you think, and as smart as you are, do you think that anybody at the Justice, Department DLC, if they, do you think that they would put solar panels on that building? They don't have enough foresight to rent out the other half of the prison that's already there.
Well, they got, what I was more talking about the land they have there. They've got 350, 400 acres of land.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, but the simple thing of it is, there's a prison. There's a vacant prison in the Cedar Mountain District. We need it. Culpeper County needs that prison for our overcrowding. I just don't understand I get so emotional because I know what this is costing us. It's costing us to outsource these prisoners. I mean, it's costing us a lot of money. We got that prison sitting right in Cedar Mountain District. Forgive me if I'm getting kind of upset here a little bit, but it does upset me because they can't even tell us why they're not letting us use it. And you think they're going to put solar panels on there? That's a dream.
It's a great idea, though.
Would you
I'm
like?
done. Sorry.
All right, Jack.
I didn't mean to do that.
Jack, would you like to address the comprehensive plan question also, or are you done?
Maybe when I cool up. No, I'm just kidding. The thing of it is with comprehensive plan, Laura is right about highlighting these roads that need to get in the comprehensive plan. The issue now is revenue sharing is not available. That's been cut off. So these revenue sharing is cut off. Comprehensive plan, it's a 5-year thing. So yes, I would agree with Laura about getting these roads in that comprehensive plan in case revenue sharing does come back. But the road issues, this road issues in our county going forward, we're going to have to look at them a lot different from what we're looking at them now, because most of them are 50% funding. I got a lot of roads done in the Cedar Mountain District just in the last few years, but that is kind of gone by the wayside now by not having the funding available. But yes, the big thing of it is, and this is going to be a big budget item that's coming up as far as county roads on how we're going to deal with it. I mean, it's huge. And we just got an estimate at our last meeting about 663 Stevensburg Road. Over $20 million for that road. Now, you take away half the funding of that, I'm telling you, it's really hard for me to swallow that. But there's other things that we need to discuss as far as the road, the alternatives. There's other issues that we can discuss. Everything now that we do as far as roads are concerned goes through VDOT. I think that we should possibly outsource that to an engineer and possibly get some realistic pricing on some of this. That's just one of the things that I've been working on the last 12 months actually. But every one of the jobs that VDOT prices, they are third overpriced. And they do that for a reason. They do that to hold our money. And it's 2 years a lot of times to get our money back from these overpriced jobs. So anyway, I get a little bit upset when I talk about spending tax dollars because I'm certainly spending mine along with y'all's. Thank you.
Susan.
As far as solar panels on the prison property, I'm going to go with the lovely not for me, but for thee, that they want us to front that, and they know that it's not something that is good for their land, either by value or by revenue or by anything. So I don't see the government ponying up their own land for this solar expedition that they're on. As far as the comprehensive plan, our comprehensive plan has agriculture driven into every single chapter. And I want to make sure that agriculture remains in every single chapter, as well as, for once, putting the effort into the transportation plan that has been lacking. I agree. Our roads, some of them are absolutely atrocious, they're dangerous, and they need addressed. But there are going to be issues with that, with the VDOT funding and different things like that. So we need to look at all of our options on making sure that we keep up with those roads. But as far as the comprehensive plan as a whole, I definitely want to maintain the agricultural focus because that is what has made Culpeper for the last 3 centuries. And I want to preserve that.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Lori Medley. I'm from Stevensburg District, and I'm running for school board, so of course I'm going to ask you a question related to schools. So effective the 1st of May of 2021, there's new legislation in the state of Virginia that allows public employees to have their unions come in and do collective bargainings on their contracts. So in the school case, if you look at Virginia Education Association, the teachers union, you look at their website, they specifically say they want to negotiate on social and racial justice, and they also specifically say they want to actively support Black Lives Matter in schools. So I always forget the A cities. It's either Alexandria or Arlington tried to get ahead of this, and they tried to pass a city ordinance that says that they're only going to negotiate on wages and benefits. The teachers union came in, caused a big uproar. The ordinance didn't move forward. So yeah, this is a school thing. They will come in and negotiate the contracts with the board of school board, but the money from the schools comes, a big part, the taxes from the county. So I was wondering if you have an opinion on these public employee negotiated contracts that I imagine would affect other groups in the county besides just the teachers, and if you have any opinion on what items should be options to negotiate on these contracts with the teachers in the future. And this is their priority for the next 2 years that they plan on, and they're really gearing up to come in and negotiate within the next 2 years.
Jack?
I absolutely do not support unions in our school. I think that you look all over the country and you can see what's happening with unions. It's pretty simple. You know, they have their lobby power and they have their curriculum power. So I do not support it here in Culpeper County. I'll take it one step further. Critical race theory, I do not support it. So with your question, no, no, and no.
Good answer.
Susan?
I agree. No, I mean, if we can't get unions out of our schools, leave it to wages and benefits. There's no reason that unions should be pushing a curriculum. The Virginia Code indicates that it's a parent's right to determine what their child gets in an education. So it needs to come from the parents, it needs to come from the taxpayers. The teachers' unions should not be pushing any particular curriculum. It's reading, writing, and arithmetic. Let's get back to the basics and get these kids educated.
I agree.
Yes. I agree as well. The reading, writing, arithmetic needs to get back into the forefront of our educating of our kids. We do not need the unions to come in and start dictating to the teachers what needs to be taught in our area. I think that needs to stay here within our group of people. So I agree with everything both of these people have said as well. I don't think that we need to start doing that. So no, no, and no. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Appreciate it.
So I believe you had a question?
I'm Richard Holden, and I'm the culprit of the Point of Forks Ag Forest District. So I want to come full circle here. First, I want to explain why did we form that Ag Forest District. It was formed about, in my recollection, about 1990 by a coalition of 3 property owners. And why did we do it? Well, it turned out there was 500 acres to the west that had just been purchased by some fellows from Fairfax who were bent on development. They had all kinds of plans, but when they found out what the zoning law was, they had to change them. But that property is still being subdivided today. There's another 500 acres to the south. And guess what? It's in the process of being subdivided. So we formed this district as a defense measure against development because we felt like we should have open land, farmland, and this was some way to at least protect what we had. As far as these easements and setbacks go, that was not something that I or anyone determined. This was determined entirely by Culpeper County Planning and Zoning. So I can't comment on that. So but that is one issue now. The other issue, when that question came up, the issue I noticed was we have a farmer flanked by 2 people who weren't. The farmer seemed to support the idea of ag forest districts and easements. The other 2 folks didn't. So that's kind of like we're seeing the push and pull between development and open farmland. The issue of the solar power came up. They were all in total agreement. We shouldn't have solar power taking over farmland. But I don't think they're all in agreement about development taking over farmland. Which leads me now to my question. And my question is based on what I've heard here tonight and what I have seen, for instance, in Spotsylvania County. There's some of us here old enough to remember what Spotsylvania County used to be like. But then the Board of Supervisors got taken over by people who were pro-development. And we see what Spotsylvania County is today. So my question to the 3 of you is how does the Board of Supervisors prevent the destruction of open land, farmland, and basically Culpeper County by rampant development? If the board gets overbalanced by people who are pro-development, then the zoning laws will change and away we'll go. So my question is, how do you balance, each of you, development and farmland?
Susan?
And with that, I'd like to sit back down.
Start with the farmer. Right now, our zoning has done a really good job of getting us through one of the major housing booms that we've seen. Through 05 and 08, I watched Centerville go from this quiet little sleepy town to houses upon houses upon houses. My husband grew up in Prince William. He watched the same thing happen where every farm disappeared for a housing development. Even where I grew up in Pennsylvania, I got kicked out of my horse farm because everywhere around there was a development. They just came in and took over everything. We have to make sure that as our zoning ordinances stay intact, we can make them stronger. We can do things like Fauquier. There's a reason why the encroachment from the north, the encroachment from the east, and the encroachment from the south all skip Fauquier, Madison, Orange, because they've all done it differently. They've all put restrictions on divides. They've put full force into protecting open space. I agree with that. If I make it, I think our ordinance is doing a good job of keeping growth slow and controlled, and we need to continue that. If anything, I would like to make it a little bit slower and more controlled. People come to Culpeper for the open space, for the agriculture, we had a great farm tour days. That was phenomenal. We've had more people visit that this year than any other year. But if we allow for reduced acreage in our ag lands, all we're doing is inviting large corporation developers to come in and make the next Three Flags. And I don't want to see our beautiful county turn into something like that. So I would not support any changes to an ordinance that allows us to become more developer friendly, and I would petition my other board members, if elected, to also support that.
Laura?
Yes, we definitely do a good job with maintaining a balance between economic development and preserving our land. We have certain areas around the town that we have what we call a water and sewer service area district. That is the area that is meant for development, for housing and for commercial. And we tend to stay in that area. And the reason that we have that particular district overlay is because it has water and sewer, or has the capability to get water and sewer to the property. You need that for these huge 200,000-300,000 home subdivisions. You can't go off of Batna Road and put in a 300 home subdivision. Even if you were to rezone it, you don't have the infrastructure. There's no way to bring from the town of Culpeper a line all the way out to Batna. So the idea of Orion Homes investing in all that infrastructure to go out there where the land is cheap to destroy farmland, that's not going to happen. It's going to happen, if at all, around the edges of the town. That's where it's going to happen. Our future land use in our comp plan dictates that as well. So one of the things that we actually did in the Planning Commission just a few months ago, we had a developer that came to us, and they wanted to change the R3 zoning, to change certain things in it, to make it easier for them to develop this piece of property that they wanted to put a contract on. Basically what they wanted to do, they wanted to take this piece of property that already had a set amount of proffers in it and be able to develop with, I want to say it was about 100 homes off of Lover's Lane. And they wanted to come in and just change that one R3 zoning. And we as a Planning Commission looked at that going, why are we doing this? We only have like 2 or 3 R3 zoned parcels. Basically what we would be doing is allowing all the other R3 zones to have that same particular use. And that's not a good use of an ordinance for someone to come in and try to change it for their particular use. Well, we didn't like that. And that's not a good use of having an ordinance and then just trying to twist it into a developer's wish so that they wouldn't have to go in and actually rezone that property to R4 to get what they want. So I think we do a good job if we stick with our ordinances the way we have it, if we look into our comp plan and truly abide by it. And again, I've worked on that comp plan for 12 years, and it's always a workable thing. It's not, law, but it's a guide that helps us. But it does help guide us to better development, to a better community. And I think that's a good thing that we have going for us, because that is our backbone to this community the way we have it now. Thanks.
First of all, I think I said that you or anybody in this room would have the right to put their land wherever they want, as far as ag, forestal, whatever. And you, as a person, could protect that land. And saying that just because she's a farmer and we are other than farmers, that we're not in favor of protecting farmland, I beg to differ, because we are. Look, I've developed a lot of property over the years, but the simple thing of it is we've done that with the right choices, the right way, and there is a right way to do that. One of the things that we could do here in this county, if we would adopt this, is go to a cluster ordinance as far as our zoning is concerned. In other words, you could take a 100-acre piece of property, and let's say it's 100 acres on a right-of-way with 10-acre lots. All right, we could take those 10 acres. They got 10 by right divides, right, on 100 acres with a 50-foot right-of-way. All right, we could take that 10 and reduce that down to 1 to 2 acre lots, save 80 acres of that open space forever. And these are the type alternatives that we need as far as our county. But we need to look forward at these things and not just be against them. Hey, maybe there's some advantage in this, is the way I look at this. And a couple other things here. We need, as a county, we need just a little tad over 1% growth in our county. We certainly don't want to be like Rappahannock County. Their taxes are almost twice what ours are. If you don't have the growth, you can't fight high taxes. We don't want that. Rappahannock County is the only county in the state that has a declining school population. Now, when you got a declining school population, that means that your growth is low, your taxes are high. Believe me, I own some property there. I know how high it is. Our taxes in Culpeper County are the lowest of any county surrounding county. We must be doing something right here. So the 1% growth or a little bit more, we need that. That growth needs to happen to keep our taxes low. So, but there is alternatives to this type stuff. Just the diehards need to listen. Thank you.
Next question. Go ahead, Marshall.
All right, just a couple of things. Somebody mentioned broadband earlier. I just wanted you guys to know, if you didn't know, the fire department here actually opened up this building for the school division, for those hot spots for those kids and everything like that. So those kids were actually able to get an education from here. So I want to thank Phyllis and the fire department for doing that as well. Mr. Inskip addressed the comprehensive plan a minute ago. We're lucky to have Mr. Frazier here tonight, because Mr. Frazier has been the spearhead on the board with getting roads done. All right, whoever's elected, you need to get with Mr. Frazier. He's going to show you how to do it. All right, because in Stevensburg it hasn't been happening. Okay, you seen the presentation last week on Mr. Frazier mentioned Stevensburg Road, at $20 million project. They got it split down into 2 phases, 10 million here, 10 million there. I would implore you to stay on that project, to keep looking into it, to find a way to make that happen. I know it's a big price tag, but my past 4 years and all of us, I've constantly heard Stevensburg Road, along with other roads down Ely's Ford and so forth. So I would just implore you to do that. My question is, obviously from a school board perspective, is it's really important to have a relationship as a school board member with a board of supervisor member. 4 years ago, in my opinion, I don't think Stevensburg had that representation with their school board member. And I can tell you over the past 4 years, I have seen the relationship improve drastically with our Board of Supervisors, okay? And I think Mr. Frazier has a huge role in that. You see CTEC, you guys spoke about the capital improvement plan and things like that moving forward. It sounds to me like you've researched a little bit because I've heard, new schools, buses, things like that. So my question to you is, what is your experience? What is your qualifications? What is your relationship now with the current board to ensure if you are elected, immediately you're going to start right into the budget year. You're immediately going to start looking at the budget, and the school system is the most part of that budget. So where are you at with your relationship with current school board members? What qualifies you to sit in a room and to be able to talk about the budget to make sure that our representation in Stevensburg, our voices are going to be heard, all right, because I think that's important. You heard it out here that Stevensburg residents expect to be heard. I'm glad everybody up here said parent choice. I think I heard that right, and no on CRT. So those are just small examples from a school division standpoint, but there's much larger examples when you start talking about Stevensburg District and whole, the big picture with different items. So we just want to make sure that our voices are heard, and what makes you more qualified than the others to do that.
Marshall, am I understanding you correctly that you're only asking this to the Stevensburg candidates?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Laura, would you go first, please?
Well, that's one of the number one things that we definitely need to make sure that we work with the school board, because with all of the funding, all the taxes that we do collect over this course of a year, over 60% of the taxes are collected for school. And we need to make sure that it is properly funded. During the CIP review, we go line by line with everything from, renovating, parking lots and renovating inside of schools to changing the cooling units. There are so many things that are involved with that we need to have that one-on-one because with the Planning Commission, we don't have that one-on-one with the school board, but we do see the need, and the need is also to communicate, and I feel that's very important to do on a one-on-one basis so that I can be on the same wavelength that the school board member is, and so that they can see my priorities with funding. And then they need to, in turn, be able to speak with me and tell me what their priorities are, that we need to make sure these particular items get funded. So definitely an open line of communication, and it will start with day one. And I'm pretty sure that come November, December is when they start working on budgets and stuff. So basically, you will hit the ground running, and I'm ready to go. I mean, I copied the budget. I made the mistake. It's a 400-page budget, so I used a lot of ink with my printer, but it's amazing what's in that thing. Because I don't see that 400 pages. I only see like 100 pages of it. So it's something that I will definitely study. And if I can say anything about my time on the Planning Commission, I do my homework. I take pride in what I do, and I'm definitely not going to leave this as a side item, because this is a very important aspect to what we do as a community to fund our schools. So there will definitely be a lot of communication going on in regard if I'm on the board. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. There should be definitely a partnership. I know a lot of areas, they don't elect their school board, their board of supervisor appoints one in that district. So there's always a very tight-knit community within that district of board of supervisors and school board. I would love to maintain more communication between the two. I think that's very important. I mean, you want to know what's at stake for me? Right there, she's 9 months old. She'll be coming into that school system here in 4 years, and you better believe that I want that to be the best education that she can get. So I want to work with the school board and definitely bounce ideas off of each other, ensure that we're on the same page. Whomever is elected for school board, I will gladly call them up the night of the election, congratulate them, and say, hey, when you want to get together. But I think it is very important budget-wise, looking at what our needs are now, what our schools' conditions are, what our growth is, where our growth is now that we have the census information to determine capacities in the future. But I agree that there should be a very good working relationship between school board and board of supervisors.
Mr. Frazier, you want to address some of that?
Yes, that is absolutely so important. I tell you, up just a few years ago, you know, this relationship, up until a few years ago, let's put it this way, the relationship between the school board and the Board of Supervisors was not very good. They were working in separate directions. But there was some change as far as our school superintendent, and just got a tremendous amount of respect for this man. And also, and one other person that's really made it come together is John Eggerson. Those two have worked together, and they have pulled the school board and the Board of Supervisors together. And I'm telling you, it's really worked. And you know, the real good thing about it is when you got two entities working together and you got this amount of money to work with, and if one doesn't know what you got to work with and the other knows what you got to work with, they're going to be pulling apart. But knowing what you got to work with, and that's one of the reasons that our budget process has worked so well in the last few years, because each side knows what we got to work with and they're working with it. So that is so cool to be working with you know, a school board that will work with you. You know, just a couple of things. I am on the CIP. It's a committee that does school planning, and there's many issues that's coming as far as the schools is concerned. You know, and I even brought a list here tonight as far as and this is not all of them, but Floyd T. Benz renovation. That's getting up. We're taking the administrative offices out of that school and putting 200 students there where they belong, and that brings the school levels from that school. Puts both schools at the same level. The renovation project at Cupper Middle School. Now I say that, but that's probably a $40 million renovation there in that school. And then I'm just going on down the list here, folks. These are things that we got to deal with. And I just think that there are things that we can deal with, and working together with I am one of the members of the board that's working with that committee to work with these. And we're working on them. We've had 2 meetings, been very productive. Another one is to build a new administration building, since we're taking the administration out of Floyd T. So that's just another project. And then that's just school issues that we have, and that's not all of them. But anyway, there's another big list here of just the county needs. So, but anyway, I'm just proud to be a part of that, working with the school, and the school's been, you know, we've had a really good working relationship. Thank you.
I'll be very quick since it's my second term, and my name is Barton Hitchcock, and I live on Mount Pony Road. Budgetary questions. Would you be willing to help the school fund solar panels on the schools, since they are probably the biggest user of electricity in the county and the biggest part of your budget? The other question is that I see disjointed that the school system has all this purchasing of paper, gasoline or diesel, fuel, all that sort of stuff. Are you willing to try to have all the systems in the county combined for purchasing power? Because every 10 cents they save in diesel that goes to the schools, the sheriff's department, the town police, all of the county vehicles, the inspectors, all that stuff goes immediately to the bottom line as less money spent and a profit. And can we combine purchasing between all those entities to give us a better use of our money?
I've lost track of where we started, so I'll just go with you, Jack. Sorry about that.
All right. First thing was, Bart, was the schools as far as the solar is concerned. CTE, which most of you know that I've been a real big part of that. When we designed that building, and I was part of that design of the building, but when we designed that building, we set that building up for solar panels. that building will have solar panels on it. The biggest issues that we have with solar panels on our existing buildings is the structural parts. That they're certainly receptive to it. The school system and we're receptive to it, but the issue is structural issues as far as whether we can put them on there or not. But that's something I would certainly be a part of if I'm reelected as far as the solar panels.
But they don't have to be on the building. They can be beside the building.
Well, that's a whole nother issue in itself, whether we got the space, because, we got a lot of schools. We got, 11 schools now, and especially the schools in town, they don't have the real estate to put any massive amount of solar panels there. But and some of the route, that's something that we're looking at, and the first step was getting solar panels on the CTE school. That school was engineered for that. Because I was one of the ones that made sure of that. I've been a very big part of that.
Susan.
And also the rest of it is being able to buy gas. The county works on that. They have a special pricing system. The county does, and that affects schools, county vehicles, and also sheriff's office vehicles. So we already have that in place.
Or things as simple as paper. Every department uses huge amounts of paper, and if you can buy a tractor-trailer load of paper as compared to going or pencils or whatever else, widgets, and combine all of that stuff.
I certainly agree with that. That is a little bit out of my forte as far as the purchasing of fuel and all like that, but I'm certainly on board with the purchasing of fuel. I know about that. For the sheriff, the sheriff's office uses a lot of fuel. Buses, big deal. Now, another thing with the gas and fuel prices going where they are, I see where you're going with that. It's very important. Thank you.
Susan.
If the structural integrity of the schools, or we have enough room, I don't see why we couldn't look at putting solar panels with. I know, like you said, with any of the new buildings, that's definitely taking into consideration. So we would have to look to see if it is cost effective to be able to put them either on the building, beside the building, or use them for covered parking lots, or however that works. I would definitely be up for looking into that. As far as with purchasing power, of course we want to find ways to reduce the cost to our taxpayer of all of the consumables that we have as a county, whether it's already done in some areas and not others. We can look at adding those in. That would be something during the budget season to be able to investigate whether or not that is or is not happening. But I wholly support doing that. Any dollar saved is definitely good for all of our pockets.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that we sort of do that now. I mean, that's a good thing because the amount of fuel that we do use for our buses and the sheriff's department, I think that's very important that we do try to consolidate all that stuff. Same goes for the extra items that are needed, a tractor load of paper. I mean, that would be awesome to see come into Culpeper and put it over in a storage area for all the kids to be able to use, or administration. I think that's important as well. As far as solar on the buildings, yes, that's something that we really need to consider and move away from this Virginia top-down aspect of putting solar all over our county. You know, we have 94 counties, 38 municipalities in the state of Virginia. You know, it shouldn't be up to Culpeper, Orange, Spotsylvania to be the sole provider for solar for the community. So why can't we get that benefit individually, either through the school or through the businesses, all of the places downtown? Why couldn't we put them on those buildings? You're not even going to see them. And again, it's the structure, the soundness of the roofing system. And definitely you don't have the space in town to do a big solar array. But I think that, you know, that's a very good possibility, especially nowadays. There are a lot of grants out there where you can get it for certain buildings, and who knows with COVID, you know, that may be a number one thing right now for governments to apply for grants for solar to help with billing and stuff to make their electricity cheaper. So I'm all for trying to organize that as well. We have someone that actually works with the county that goes out and sees all these grants that are out there that the federal government, the state government offers. So we have someone that's actually actively out there pursuing this kind of stuff, and I would direct them to see about doing that for schools, since we're already doing it for CTE, the CTEC school. So that's what I'd like to do.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, there's a whole lot of issues. I'm Jean Stegmeyer from Stevensburg. And there's a whole lot of issues raised here tonight that are good. We all need to talk about them. But one thing I haven't heard about is the COVID money that was sent to the county. There was money left over. And that money went to the high school for funding for a building, I think, if I'm correct, what I read in the paper. Where did the leftover money go to? That was one of my questions. And then I'm going to move on. I'm going to try and keep it short. One of the reasons we have a solar farm approved out in Stevensburg is because it was approved by 3 board members. 2 of those board members left the board not too long after voting for it. One of the existing members, 2 of them actually, abstained from voting. That's why we have it out there. The Planning Commission did their work. They brought all kinds of information. The citizens brought all kinds of negative information on solar farms, mega solar farms. Well, that solar farm is going to hit me and my husband and my family right in the face. Am I happy about it? No, I'm not. Can I do anything about it? I don't know. But I wish all of you would go to these Board of Supervisor meetings and encourage people to know what's going on with solar. We were just recently contacted by a company wanting to buy our land for the storage of batteries that's used on solar farms. Well, these batteries contain contaminants. The solar panels contain contaminants. I don't want solar panels on schools. Why would I put solar panels where my children would be, where my grandchildren would be, when they all contain cellulite and all these bad chemicals? So, to me, I would not do that. No, I don't want them on the water tower. I don't know where to put them other than possibly industrial solar. So, my last question to this group is, this started in 2016 at my house, July of 2016, for a solar farm developers. 5 years later, this county still does not have a good solar policy or an ordinance. So please tell me why not. Thank you. I'm tired of going home.
Ma'am, I'm gonna have to back up a little bit. Your first question was regarding the money from the COVID.
The leftover money.
Okay. Are you specifically asking this to Mr. Frazier or all the?
Anybody that has an answer.
Okay. Well,
Maybe somebody knows that. I mean, I only read a portion of an article from the newspaper, so I'm really not sure, but there was money left over.
Okay.
I can answer that question for you if you want.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
That money that was left over was part of a plan that I sponsored, and there was one other board member that sponsored that too. What we did with that money was, the issue was during 2020, when the COVID was rampant, kids were having to stay home, parents had to go to work, they had to provide some daycare service, which they wouldn't normally have done. So what we did with that, we had almost 300 families that applied for that money And I thought that money was well spent because it was spent on families that could not afford daycare for their kids. The kids had to stay home. They had to do something about daycare. They had to work. So it was almost 300 families that applied for that. And I'm proud I supported it.
Well, I don't disagree with that portion of it, but the way the article in the paper read was that it went to the sports complex.
It did not.
Okay, well then I'll check with the papers.
Yep.
If they're wrong, they need to be corrected.
But it did not. No, and I can straighten you out on that one too. There was about $2 million, maybe a little bit more. This fund was set up as an extra money in the budget or a standalone budget.
For COVID?
Nope. Nope. It was just for expenses. That little over 2, maybe 3, it was just there. Now, I voted to give it back to the taxpayer. I voted on that. I voted to give another penny back to the taxpayer at the last budget meeting. Got outvoted on that. But the simple thing of it is, the $2 million, the $3 million is still there. That is going to be used for the complex funding.
That's the 2 or 3. Okay, so it's not COVID money. It was that extra money.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll have to pull up that COVID article.
But like I say, that's where we spent the money, and I was proud to have done that because it helped a lot of families in our county.
Okay, very good.
Ma'am, were your questions addressed?
I just don't know why we don't have a policy now, why we have to keep going back to the policy. These people get paid by our tax dollars, okay? And maybe they don't get paid enough, but it's been 5 years, and we keep going back to the same issue of how many acres. And it just seems like it's never going to get resolved and actually be an ordinance. Maybe they don't want it to be an ordinance. I don't know. But I think, I know government works slow, as is evidenced by Washington, D.C., but I mean, why is it, and I know for a fact that Laura Rogers has really worked hard on the solar issue. I've heard her speak, I've heard her question the solar developers, and I imagine Susan did too, but I was still, and I didn't get to hear her speak to them or ask them questions. But I know these people work hard, but I just can't, in my mind, get to the point where why don't we have a policy that's done in 5 years?
Well, originally, we didn't have anything. We just had a bunch of conditions. And then the board started saying, okay, we need to go ahead and do a policy. Of course, the commission's like, no, we need to get it ordinance, make it law. But they decided just to go with the policy. So they had something that they formulated in 2018. Then Greenwood came in, and they're here. And then there was a lot of backlash with that. So when they went back and amended the 2018 policy in 2019, they finally put in limitations, because before there was no limitations. There wasn't anything in regard to decommissioning, what amount went against for a surety bond, that kind of thing. They did put acreage limits of 300. They did put panel limits. They did put land disturbance limits, which was great because we didn't have that before. But now it's coming full circle where the board has now tasked us to get an ordinance out there. But now we ended up with no acreage on there, with no panel heights. We need to get that on this ordinance, and that's why everyone needs to just continue on. Please, we need for the people to speak and say that we need this parameter. And if we can go ahead and do that, we may have one by the 1st of next year, where we'll actually have rules that these applications, when they come in, they're going to come in what we want, not what Virginia wants.
Jack, would you like to address it?
Well, the simple thing of it is that this is a very long process. And I think most of you know where I am with this.
Oh, I know.
So
you are.
Yeah, so, but the thing of it is getting everybody to agree, and, you know, you gotta give and take and all like this. But the simple thing of it is I think we can get there, and I think that this process that will happen, Thursday night, I think it's a good process. There'll be another public hearing, and the board will be able to address some of it before it goes back to that public hearing. So anyway, it takes time, and the simple thing of it is I just think that it's a give-take situation, and hopefully we can get through it. And believe me, you know, government is not like operating a business, because, you know, with my business, the buck stops here. With a government, the buck stops there. So it's every, you know, opinions is just like, you know, the old saying, everybody's got one.
Susan, would you like to address it also?
Yeah, I feel 5 years is way too long. We definitely need to put our foot down and make sure that this is a priority going into this year, to make sure that either by the end of the year or shortly after that we have an ordinance, and it's an ordinance that we can all live with. I totally understand how slow government is and how many cooks you have in the kitchen. I worked in the federal government for 12 years. It was painful getting anything done. We were always 10 years behind of everything. So the fact that in 5 years we're putting an ordinance out there for public hearing kind of amazes me. But no, it needs to be a priority. We need to get this done, and we need to quit floating around and have something concrete.
All right. Well, we're a little over 2 hours in, so we're going to call the forum to a close here shortly. I told the candidates that they would have a couple minutes for closing remarks, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. We'll do it in the backwards order the way we did the opening remarks. So, Laura, if you'd like to go first.
Sure.
Excuse me, because we got two people that like to speak in one. The TV station has given, gracious has given us 2 hours, we're already ahead of that.
Go ahead.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. If you two got questions, we'll do those last two questions. That's fine.
And I apologize, I didn't realize,
No,
maybe I
that's
missed the
fine.
2 hour. I'm Gloria Maston. We've been from Richardsville. Our family's been here since the 1840s, 50s. There's a number of us. But I would like to say that looking at our new supervisor, whoever that is, we want to be a community. This fire department has held this area together as a community since 1967. Right. I mean, and they have been the center of our community. We have asked for schools to be brought this way. We've asked to have internet come this way. We've asked for short bus rides to come this way. We've asked for better roads to come this way. When I moved to, my son is 40. When he started school here, the bus ride was an hour and a half to town, up and back. We love being an agriculture community, but we need to bring us into being a true community, and that takes a school. We have a lot of young parents here that commute. They're commuting to Northern Virginia to go 20 miles to school to be involved in their children's schools. And I think you've expressed it, but I just wanted to say we're looking for a commitment, a park. There's a great little toddler park up by Eastern View that I think Jack's family even helped to get. We would love to have one of these down here. We have a lot of grandparents raising children. I mean, those things are needed in our community. We're a long ways from town. We're closer to the Walmart in Orange, 10 miles. I-95, 15, 16 miles. But where is our community? Our fire department has done so many things over and over. So I'm asking, I hear that relationship with the school board, the relationship with the Parks and Rec. And I know you need to work together, but will you be willing to keep us a community and bring back community? My husband went to school up here at the Ruetan Club, when we were a community. And I think community keeps people informed, brings people together, and we know the issues. And I find it very hard in Culpeper to be informed of the issues. The newspapers completely changed. The website. I really have to sit at the corner of my bathtub. I have a corner of my bathtub upstairs where I can get phone reception. I mean, getting information and to be able to speak up and talk about information is a real challenge for this area out here. We love the agriculture and we love to be rural, but we need those other things that make us a community. We have the town of Culpeper. You know, you have Pearl Sample and AG. The traffic is a mess in the mornings and the evenings. Pearl Sample could have built 5 miles out towards Stevensburg. That would have made our commute a lot easier. You've got plenty of houses on that end. I think there's solutions. And are you all committed to make those, you know, even though I know you have to work together, are you going to be willing to step up and bring us to a community and not just depend on volunteer fire departments? You know, I feel like we just need that type of support brought back to us.
Or would you like to start, please?
Yeah,
Just make a short answer, you know.
Well, it sounds like we definitely need to have that communication. I think one of the things that needs to get done in Stevensburg is to actually start having community meetings. I think in order for me to know what you want, I got to know what you want. I can be up at this table here and blather on for hours at a time saying what I want, but it's got to be what you guys want. So I agree. It's something that needs to be a grassroots, and it needs to have the conversation, just like us with the school board. I believe that is something that is definitely needed in our district once again. So thank you.
Gloria, were you wanting to include Jack on this, or just the Stevensburg candidates?
Stevensburg is fine. I know
Okay.
Jackie, I know who does a lot for their
Okay.
community out there. So,
Would you-
and he
all right.
knows where I am.
Yes, I do.
Susan?
Yes.
We're short on time.
We got all the time we need.
I totally agree with the outreach. Richardsville needs to be brought into the fold. It's out here. I remember the first time coming to this fire department was actually for working an election with you, yes, and it was an experience making my way down here at 4:30 in the morning. But I've always felt that kind of Richardsville's kind of left out of the fold. You talk about maybe even getting to Lignum, but once you pass Lignum, it's just like, oh, that's Richardsville down there. And I definitely want to change that. I think Richardsville is where a lot of our young people are going, where a lot of our growth is going to happen, where the new foundation of Culpeper is going to come from. And we need to make sure that you guys are definitely in the fold. Like I said before, I put my phone number on everything. I want to hear from you. That is actually my cell phone. That is not a secondary phone or anything. That is my legit cell phone. And I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I've had people call me, and we've had great conversations, and I've learned so much about this community down here. And Richardsville is a wonderful community of generations, and I want to make sure that you guys do feel accepted, wanted, and in this community, because that's what makes Culpeper Culpeper.
All right, thank you. Sir?
Thank you. Don Haight, Stevensburg. Again, I apologize. Fantastic questions today. Comprehensive plan. Each and every one of you must come and speak at the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors meetings. I hate to say this, but I can't say this enough, that you can't sit at home and complain about the comprehensive plan and the ordinance if you don't participate. I urge all of you to come and voice your opinions in the upcoming meeting this Thursday. As I look around the room, only 7 of us in this room out of about 37 have actually been speaking at the comprehensive plan in the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission meetings the last 3 years. But we need your help. We need everyone's input, and we do value your input, and they do listen. So please come to the meetings and voice your opinion. I love to see all of you there. Express my thanks to the fire department for hosting this tonight, and also the residents of Stevensburg are demanding change, and this is why we have 2 ladies running in the Stevensburg district, and I believe it is the first time, and congratulations to these ladies. As a matter of fact, we should give them a round of applause for doing that. Thank you. Either of you would be a great supervisor that would make us proud, but unfortunately we can only choose one. I will support the winner and assist in any way I can to keep Culpeper the wonderful place it is that we all enjoy and live in. This Stevensburg election will be the most important of our lifetime because of all the solar issues, as you have heard tonight, ahead of us, and we must make sure that we choose the best qualified person, one that will listen to the constituents and not accept money from the developers, a supervisor that wants to do what the people wants to do and not necessarily for their own hidden agendas. The candidate I choose is in no way, shape, or form a slight or a disrespect for the other candidate, but it's just the best candidate to lead Stevensburg, the largest district in Culpeper County. Good luck to both of you, and at the end of the debate, I will select a candidate that I will endorse. We simply can't afford to choose the wrong candidate. We need to elect a candidate that will listen to us, plain and simple. I make decisions on facts, not promises. Therefore, my question is based on actual accomplishments, not promises. Anyone can make promises. First question, how long have you been a resident of Culpeper County? Second question, how long have you served on the Board of Supervisors or on the Planning Commission? Third question, what are the actual accomplishments? Again, I repeat, what are the actual accomplishments that you have done while serving on the Board of Supervisors or Planning Commission that will betterment the Culpeper County? Not promises, but actual accomplishments. Thank you.
Sir, can I ask you, it seemed like you were directing that also to the Stevensburg candidates, is that correct?
It would be for all.
For all?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Susan, would you please start?
Sure. How long have I been in the county? I purchased our property in 2014. It was a foreclosure, and we built our farm from the ground up from that property. The Planning Commission, I had the pleasure of finishing out a term of someone and was only able to be on there for 1 year. I was not asked to come back, though I did apply. And as far as accomplishments, I believe that we helped some residents with some resolutions that they were going forward. One of the items was the change in business practices for actually somebody that lived on my road. We were able to allow them to flow with the times of the bad economy was not allowing for basically family dogs, and they wanted to move to training police dogs, and we supported that measure, and I feel that that was something good for the community, to the fact that we helped them weather through a bad time. One of the others was a variance that we did for a family divide for a family who had just recently had twins. She's actually, I believe I just saw a documentary coming out on her. She's also a paraplegic. We helped them with allowing that divide so that they could have their family member close by to help with the children. So those are the things that I believe in helping this community, and those are the accomplishments that I had on the Planning Commission that I hold dear.
Aura?
I've been a resident for over 25 years. We moved here in 1996, in February of 96. I've been on the Planning Commission for 12 years. And as far as accomplishments that I've done, as soon as I started the Planning Commission, my first thing that January, we were on Chapter 6 of reviewing the comp plan. So I think that's where my love of working on the comp plan has, I always look forward to that every 5 years. So I've updated and revised 2 comp plans, working on a third right now. I think early on, within my first year, I remember we did some restructuring of our ordinances. We had like 10 or 11 or 12 ordinances, zoning districts, excuse me, where we had just certain districts in commercial. We had 7 commercial districts, and we really didn't need a highway interchange district because we really didn't have that type of land, and there wasn't anything that was actually zoned that. So what we did, we took a lot of those districts and consolidated them. We took 7 of those districts, consolidated them into 3, and then we also did that with heavy industrial. We had a couple of M1 and H1, M1 and M2 that we consolidated, and we just have heavy industrial and light industrial now. It just makes it easier for when someone goes into rezoning. They don't have to go, oh, well, which way do we go? Do we have to go into OC zoning, or do we have to go into CS zoning? So I did that. we had telecommunications towers that we were able to pursue and get them on the boards. We got one at Lignum and another one in Boston. And Boston was a really bad place because there is like no service, sort of like out here in Richardsville. People had to walk like Jack does to his picnic table to make a phone call halfway down
It's cold out there at night.
So we were able to get that, and then something that we also learned was we had we like pictures in our comp plan, and one of the things that we had in there was a map of all of the locations of where we saw the best place to put these telecommunication towers. Well, when we did this, you know, we thought, oh, well, this is where we need to put it. And when we found, especially with the Boston thing, that was an argument that was being made, oh, well, you can't put one there because it's not in the comp plan doesn't say it's over there. But we made the argument, well, the comp plan doesn't say, but as for safety 911, we need to make sure that we have one in that particular area. So that was something that we did end up changing. And so I think that's an important feature. By doing that, when we listen to what comes into the area, technology changes, we try to change with it. I can't think of anything else off the cuff that I did, but again, I've always done my homework, so what I don't know on certain things, I make sure that I study up, and I always go to meetings prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack?
My wife and I, born and raised in Culpeper County. I started my business that I own and operate now at 25 years old, and it's still working. Anyway, I'm just going to go over, for time's sake, I'm just going to go over a few of the things that I've done. Not so much, I served 5 years on the Planning Commission, and I think that that accomplishment's there, but I'm going to go right into the things that I've worked on in the Board of Supervisors. I was part of a delegation that went to New York. We went up there on a train. That was back in 2015. Frank Bosio was the county administrator at that time, and the reason for our trip was it was to get a better bond rating on Eastern View bonds and YOW bonds. And we were talking about over $60 million that we were dealing with at the time. We went there, we sat before 3 bond rating companies. Our bond rating was a AA+ at that time. Our mission was to get it at AAA. We got it at AAA. We came back, we saved the county over $5 million. The other, I'm just going to use 3 illustrations, and there was mention about the roads. I've been pretty lucky by working with some of the other supervisors in the Cedar Mountain District, and the roads that I've gotten done through revenue sharing: 2 miles, 647 Twin Mountain Road, 657 Old Mill Road, 601 Keller Road, 689 Cedar Run Road. The completed maintenance that I've gotten done is Linder View, Proctor Court, White Shop Road, Mermack Road, Williams Drive. These are some of all these roads have gotten done in the Cedar Mountain District. Anyway, the one thing of all this stuff that I worked on, the one thing that I'm the most proud of is the CTE school. Thank you.
All right.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to let me speak tonight, but I want you all to, if you don't take anything away from tonight, it's very important that we get you guys to speak in the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission meeting. Seriously. Anything that happens in Stevensburg would affect you eventually, because what happened is our Board of Supervisors did not put enough money for decommissioning. They only, for over close to 1,000 acres, they only made the developer put aside $500,000 for decommission. That's $500,000 to pull out the solar panels, to pull out the pilings. I wouldn't even seed and straw that for $500,000. So we need your input, and trust me, they do listen. Thank you.
Well, the purpose of us being here so you all can get the information. You know, I don't want to keep you here all night, but if you've got more questions, by all means, come up and ask them. This is your good opportunity before we close. All right. Well, if that's the case, then we'll go ahead with the closing remarks. And Laura, if you would start with those.
Thank you. I appreciate it. In closing, if elected as your representative for the Board of Supervisors, I will attend all the meetings as I have done for the past 12 years as my role as a planning commissioner. I will be involved and I will be engaged in the issues that the Culpeper citizens have, and I will do what's best for the Stevensburg district and for the county. I came across a quote the other day. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. I'm what's good about politics, someone who's willing to better their community for the sole reason of bettering their community. I will bring hope and optimism to the county governance. I will preserve our agricultural and rural characteristics that we value so much. I will be for current and future small businesses. I will lift up Culpeper with positive pursuits of what is best for our community, and I will lead with integrity. I respectfully ask for your vote November 2nd. Thank you.
Susan?
We addressed a lot of good topics tonight. Solar is important, broadband, our schools and our busing, especially down here in Richardsville, of course our roads, and then our fiscal responsibility to you, the taxpayers. If you want a supervisor that'll support any and all forms of rezoning and development, I'm definitely not your candidate. I will strive to protect the fragile dynamic that Culpeper has been able to maintain for centuries between agriculture, residences, and businesses. I will do my best to be your advocate and be available to all the citizens of Culpeper. I want to support farmers, business owners, students, retirees, teachers, all residents of Stevensburg. I will be your voice. You guys will now be heard. I hope you have your support on November. Thank you.
Jack?
I had this long spiel that I was going to make to you all night, and you're probably glad I'm not going to do that. But the simple thing of it is, as you all here tonight have heard tonight, I have a track record. That's what I got to run on. So I tell the people of Cedar Mountain, I've got that track record. You know what you got. So I ask for your vote, but hey, you all know what you got. I'm somewhat outspoken, as you all tell, but hey, that's okay, because that's just what you got with me. So I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve the people of Cedar Mountain and County. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank I'd like to thank the candidates for coming out and spending the time to let us ask the questions. It's great that we've got an opportunity to meet you and find out more about you, so we're more informed voters. Thank you very much for that.
I'd like to say one more thing. That this format that you all used here tonight, God, it's awesome. Y'all made us feel at home. It's just great. This is a format that the county, wide should take, instead of having blocked 2-minute questions that the chamber gives us.
I would also like to thank all of you for coming out. It's great to see this big of a crowd. I didn't know what to expect. I think somebody called me earlier today and asked me whether I was expecting a big crowd or not. I told them I didn't have the idea if we're going to have 2 people or 400. I didn't have a clue, but it's great to see you all coming out here.
It's good.
And I want to thank everybody for the respectful way that you all conducted yourselves and asked the questions. Thank you very much. Careful going home.
Turned out really well.